All right, everybody, I just wanted to just go on your Blackboard quickly. And so this is what we're going to be doing on Blackboard. There are a few things that you have to do. So as all of you know that we are, you're doing your debate speeches today, and you will have about 3 minutes, right? So that doesn't mean that if you're, 3 minutes is over, you still have about 30 seconds of, some flex time there. So it's 30 seconds up as just like before, 30 seconds more or 30 seconds less is fine. So that's one of the things. Okay. So once you are done with your first argument, then all of you, I'm going to point out to your Blackboard. Please go on in-class assignment. Once everybody is there, let me know. All right, once you are on in-class assignment, you will go scroll down to the bottom till you can't go anymore. And then you see counter arguments there. So once you click counter argument, remember for each speaker, this time you're not doing a peer evaluation like you always do. This time you're doing a counter argument. You already have done that as a homework for last week. You did, if you're on the discussion forum, you addressed each other, you looked at your argument, you came up with a counter argument, and there was refutation, and all of that happened. So you've already had a dry run and a practice run, but this time you're going to hear them actually. And for each speaker in class today, you will have to formulate a counter argument. First, you have to restate the claim in your own words. Then second is you have to tell us how you agree with the speaker first, that before you say how you disagree. And then you tell us about how you disagree with the speaker very specifically using any of the 5 strategies that we talked about: direct denial, challenging the significance of the claim, challenging the warrant, challenging the evidence, or turning the opponent's claim evidence proof to your advantage. I'm just going to do a little bit of a kind of a recap so that it's fresh in your memory. Remember, if you think about Toulmin's model of argumentation, the Obama speech that we heard, direct denial is when he says, the speaker or your opponent says black and you say white, right? If Obama wanted to go for peace and you said, or that in his speech he said you want to go to war with Syria, and you said no, war is out of the question, we will go for peace. So it's like a direct denial. You throw out the person's claim out of the window and completely propose something completely opposite to what the person is claiming. Challenging the significance is when you either reduce the significance of the claim, saying that, why are you focusing on this? You should be focusing on that, kind of deprioritizing the claim, the significance or the importance of the claim. Challenging the warrant is when you hear the speaker's argument, you hear the speaker's claim, and you feel that the reasoning is not correct, and you challenge the reasoning, okay? Which we did. I told you that I felt that in Obama's speech, I think that was a kind of a overstatement or he was, I think, acting out of fear when he says that he wants to go and strike Syria, and because otherwise our US national security is under threat. I didn't see such a very strong warrant for that kind of a claim. So I challenged his warrant. So that's something that you can do. Challenging the evidence is, he talked about all the weapons of mass destruction, chemical warfare, and all of that. And if you feel that that's not true and the evidence is all botched up, you challenge the evidence. Finally, the last one is you agree with the opponent's claim. However, you point out something that the opponent hasn't thought about, kind of challenging the opponent to think about some other options. So that's the last one. Okay, you challenge turn the opponent's claim, proof, evidence to your advantage, and then you summarize your counter argument. You're done with that. So everybody will get time to do that. And right after you finish, I'm saying that okay, everybody, did you finish it? You say yes, and then I say, can you ask? I'll ask anyone of you unless you volunteer. You volunteer, wonderful. If you don't volunteer, I have to ask you. All right. So right now, let's just focus on this one, and then next few things that I'll be talking to you about will happen after our it is over. Close the door now. Okay. And you need to use a marker and things right here.
Professor, is this our last day in class?
Yes.
Wait, do we have a final?
I'll be talking about it today.
Oh, it's stop thing.
Okay. All right. Who, you can go in any order. Okay. Give me I'll just do a quick attendance and then attendance. Okay. Derek?
Yes.
Yes. Estefani? Yes. Armando? Yes. Ian?
Right here.
Yes. Aurora? Sebastian? Yes. Leah? Here. Hannah? Here. Eve? Here. Nuha? Here. Stormy? Aspen. Yesenia? Aspen. Josh? What happened to Josh? Okay. Let me quickly check any messages from you, from any of the students. Right. Are you able to see this?
Yeah.
1 minute? Okay. That means 2 minutes is done, 1 minute is less than 30 seconds and then stop. Okay. All right. Okay. Start.
Okay. So the persuasive pitch I'm going to talk about today is why the two-party system is failing the United States. So as a foreigner, my perspective on American politics is very unbiased, and it's based on my own research and personal experience since I first actually transferred to Wisconsin, which is more of a conservative state, and then I moved over here to Illinois, which is more a liberal state. So according to Pew Research Center, Americans have rarely been as polarized as they are today. So both Trump and Biden supporters say if the other wins, it would result lasting harm to the country. Um, it is the first time in modern U.S. history that Americans are divided than ever. There's a few reasons why they are divided, and one of the reasons is misinformation. So if you look at Fox News and CNN, both of these news telecasts, they have been controlled by one side of the party. And instead of understanding the facts, they spread negativity and hatreds that only push their supporters to the extreme. Um, Without the supporters evaluating the piece of information with their own thought processes, and they don't keep in mind that facts don't care about feelings. Whether if you dislike it or like it, facts are facts. So having the opposing or different opinions doesn't mean that you can't have common ground. Having different opinions and differences only defines who you are. And if we all conform together, we will lose our identity. In other words, we have to understand that there are a lot of boundaries that we have to keep in mind. So for example, it is not wrong for a Republican or for a conservative to say they do not like homosexuals because it's their own perspective. But in today's world, if a public figure that is very polarizing says something like that, it would only lead them to the cancel culture without even evaluating their own personal opinion, because this is the United States. We should have the freedom of speech. And in today's world, it does not happen because it only it only provide the kind of hatred towards a kind of person because it kind of interrupts your own beliefs. In continuation to that, everyone gets too caught up with their own expectations and their perspective on others, where I believe that a lot of people in the United States do not actually consider what the opposing member is talking about, rather than so when they listen to what they are speaking, they only listen to reply rather than listen to understand. Because to acknowledge that the opposing member or someone else has, if they have done something good, we have to acknowledge that, not to just disagree with them because if something that disagrees with your own perspective. So to close out my speech, I would like to quote from a movie. I think it's called The Forever Purge, where at the end of the movie, they the protagonist worked alongside with the immigrant of a Mexican immigrant, and they agreed that they might not see eye to eye in a lot of things, but that's the beauty of it because you got to agree to disagree. Thank you.
Right. CJ, yes, they're going to ask you a question.
Okay.
All right. Please formulate your counter argument for Yan. And his name is not in the, actually, no one was prepared for this one because Yan wasn't there. Oh, okay. So, yeah.
So I went on 59 at first, there's a bunch of chapters, then I went on 20, then I went down to
Are you all working on the counter argument class? I mean, please turn it, don't have to just, you don't have, after you're done with all the counter arguments, then hit one time submit. But right now, write it down. And then I will, whoever is prepared, whoever wants to volunteer to ask Yan, to counter argue with Yan, should let me know, and otherwise I have to do. And I think your position is the bipartisan doesn't work.
Yeah, why the two-party system?
Two-party system doesn't work. Specifically, please use the 5 strategies, any of the 5 strategies to counter argue with him.
Excuse me, Professor. So I do have to reply to your.
Yes, you have to reply with a refutation to refute your first. So you have to hear, understand what they're saying, restate it, and so that you're on the same page with them. Then tell us how you agree with your opponent, and then say how you disagree, and then defend your position by using any of the 5 strategies: direct denial, challenge their reasoning of the counter argument, challenge their evidence, challenge the significance of their claim, or
even point out something that they might not.
That they have
right,
not. And then summarize your reputation.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
What speech?
Why the two-party system? Why bipartisan is not working for the United States?
Does anybody have an extra pen, please? Pen or pencil? Borrow.
No pencil.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. When they give you a counter argument, you have a pen and a pencil, and you can make the points. You don't have to respond immediately.
Oh,
You
okay.
have to some thinking time.
How long do I have to reply for?
It depends, about a minute or so.
Will everyone have to give him like
One person. You have to, did you type, did you put it in?
Yeah, but I was just asking like, does everyone like individually give him,
No, just one
give him a
person.
counter argument or is it just one per?
Everyone has to, I'll ask one of you.
Okay.
Everyone has to. Is anybody ready? I mean, is everyone done with their writing part of it, typing it? Okay. Anywhere, volunteers for Ian? Anybody? Unless I'm calling. I'll go. Okay, great, wonderful. Thank you.
Do you want me to go there?
I'm sorry?
Or can I, where do you want me to go?
No, you can just ask him.
Okay.
Okay. In the same order, restate his claim, show where you agree,
Okay.
then show where you disagree, and then let you respond.
So I agree that two-party system does not work in the United States, but I don't think it's entirely because we aren't listening to one another. I think there's just too few options for the American people to choose from, and each party is really just too busy trying to prove the other one wrong rather than listen to each other. So yes, I agree the two-party system is not working in the US. But again, I think it's just politicians just want to be right and they just want to get votes. They're not really working towards results or listening to each other. They're just kind of trying to reinvigorate their base.
Okay, so the argument is that you think that.
You can have some time.
No, I'm okay.
Okay, all right.
So the argument is that you think that the parties, it's not necessarily about not working together, it's more about the politicians are just wanting to prove the other wrong.
Yeah.
So in my opinion, my counter to that is that that's exactly what I was saying. That's exactly why the United States is not working out, because it's all about fighting with each other and not, competing with each other rather than focusing on the facts. Like a lot of controversial issues, have no problem. Like COVID-19, it has nothing to do with political, but it was made very political. So I believe that with the misinformation is one of the ways the government is using to separate the people, and that's why the government uses that tool to kind of disrupt each other's beliefs rather than proving to them, like rather than just releasing information.
All right, so what I'll do, Yan, is I'm going to, I just heard your exchange with Leah, and in terms of grading, it's done. I mean, you're not going to grade it anymore on what will happen right now. But I will ask you a question, okay, just to understand your question.
Sure.
First of all, I want, primarily, of course, we know that they're Democrats and Republicans, but there are some the Green Party, there are some parties here which
Independent party.
party, and there are some parties. So not exactly like there are some. It's not just the Democrats and Republicans. There are some in terms of elections and in terms of So, but of course, I understand for all practicality, it's the Democrats and the Republicans.
Like the majority part.
Yeah, that we're dealing with. Agree. Okay. Now, what I want to ask you is, how do you think? You said that this is not going to work already, and you talked about the fact that this is not going to work because you should have a diversity of opinions, and like you exactly said, the COVID-19, it wasn't a political issue, they politicized it, and that is happening because both of them have very, very different viewpoints and very different grounds that they stand on. I understand that. What is the alternative? What do you think we should have, and how is that going to solve this situation?
I think that the most important thing for America right now is to have leaders from both parties that can agree to disagree. To be able to sit down and acknowledge the good that the opponent has done, and also talk about the things that they disagree with, and have a constructive debate, to help each other out, to point out flaws of each other, because that's how I feel the community grows and the community works. Because when you have diversity, you open up your perspective. You're able to absorb in things that you never thought was okay, or was in your thought processes. Because a lot of the times we only focus on what like what like a party wants, rather than listening to like I said, rather than listen to reply or listen to understand, because those are very two different things.
Any model of a party that you see, or I'm not party, but any model of, a bipartisan system, or perhaps a multi-party system that has worked, where they are, do you see that most, different parties, they agree with each other in world politics?
I think in
Have you
world
seen
politics,
that?
if you look at the politics in Europe, they are much more not as extreme as the politics over here. So a lot of the news channels are very independent. So no matter how much the government try to control, they are independent. So a lot of independent journalists, they are able to publish all sorts of articles and whatnot towards any news source, no matter if it's pro liberal or pro conservative.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, the next person.
Yes.
You can talk about that later, that's. Okay, who wants to go next? Okay. All right, Leah, whenever you're ready.
Did you know that in 2018, the 3 richest Americans had a combined wealth that equaled that of the bottom 50% of the entire US population? In other terms, those 3 men had a combined wealth of 115 million Americans combined wealth. The US has a severely higher disparity between rich and poor than any other developed nation in the world. In 2019, the average white household had a combined wealth of $184,000. Hispanic households had a wealth of $38,000, and Black households had a wealth of just $23,000. So what fuels this divide? To understand that, we have to go back in time to 1964. Racial segregation in America was legal until just 58 years ago in 1964. For some perspective on that, I'm 33 years old. My mom was 9 when segregation was outlawed in this country. And it wasn't until 1 year after that that Black people were legally allowed to vote in America. So for only 57 years, Black people have been able to vote in this country. Fortunately, the civil rights movement made huge strides legally, but collectively, the rest of our country didn't do much for the equal opportunity of life, liberty, and happiness for other Black people living at that time, or racial minorities living at that time. Kind of like we let a whole group of wrongly convicted people out of jail, but just left them at the prison steps with no phone call, no ride, no regard for the education that they missed out on, no reentry program for life after a lifetime of segregation and isolation. So really, how much progress socially, culturally, and economically could we expect these people to make? But that's what America did in the very recent past to minorities. And that's a big reason why today the socioeconomic gap between white people and minorities in America still remains really dramatic. Our country didn't restart the game, so to speak, when we let this whole new group of participants join in. We just kind of expected them to know how to play the game. But really, how could we expect them to win? According to educationnext.org and countless other sources, In most studies, parental education is the single strongest correlate to identify children's success in school, the number of years that they stay in school, and their success in life after school. So just a few generations ago, our parents' generation or our grandparents' generation, my mom's generation, in a large part of America, Black people weren't allowed to go to the same schools as the rest of us. And we know today how underfunded many of our school districts are. So just imagine how many of those school districts back then couldn't afford that separate school. Flash forward to the 21st century, and according to a 2003 study by Princeton professor Deba Pager, out of 350 job applications, white men with a felony record received a callback rate of 17%, and Black men with no felony record received a callback rate of just 14%. So in America, it's easier to get a job if you're a white man with a felony record than if you're a Black man with a completely clean record. Certainly, there's a long list of reasons why the wealth gap in America keeps growing, and racial systemic racism is really just one of them. And I'm certainly not trying to say that there aren't tons of white families who have an uphill battle as well, but I'm really just trying to say that kind of the starting line for white people is in a very different place than other minorities in America.
Right, if we could write the counter argument for this. you have finished, could somebody volunteer to have a counter argument? Volunteer?
I can go.
Okay, all right, please.
Can I just read it?
Yes, please.
So I can see where you're coming from with how systemic racism is into the wealth divide in America. I think we can both agree that there are rich white people, but there are also poor white people, and the same idea goes for any race. Therefore, I think it's more of a separation caused by class and by the cultures of class than by race. You've seen many white immigrants come into a country and not have the same starting line as the average white person builds their way up. I think the wealth gap is a separate topic from race, and a way to solve it doesn't really have much to do with race. It has to do with the culture between classes. You see lower financial classes having issues with just like their culture, I suppose, like the way that their communities are run and stuff. I think that things like equal amounts of police or an increase in business or lower crime would help. And there's ways to like implement that. So basically, like, I think it's just that the classes, like a lower class needs to start acting like a higher class in order to like achieve financial higher class. Like you can't have a bad community and like raise businesses within it.
I just, I think as I understand, she's challenging your warrant, your reasoning, and has also explained what culture clash is. So you can take your time to answer. Do you need some more explanation about culture clash?
No, I
Okay.
think I know that. Yeah.
Okay, all right. If you want to write it down, just take your time.
No. Yeah, I can see where you're coming from, definitely, I guess, with the culture clash argument coming from that direction, but even really within culture, it's a lot of evidence just kind of indicates that the economic disparities between races is kind of perpetuating like where they're at culturally and maybe not changing. So for example, in 2016, 72% of white families owned their homes and only 44% of black families owned their homes. So just coming from a place of like hoping to attain property ownership, the way people grow up and what their aspirations may be and what they think is attainable is just very different. As far as college goes, it's just another really important thing culturally, especially in America. We place such a huge emphasis on getting at least some college education. Just going to school is much harder for minorities in America. Of people getting their bachelor's degree, black people on average had 13% more debt than whites. And that's for their bachelor's, and for their associate's degree, actually 26% more debt than white people. Just taking on the burden of getting that education is a little bit harder for them financially. Really even coming to like minimum wage and what people are earning, which kind of helps, build their household and the community and culture that they live in. Blacks and Latinos are 31% of the working population, but 44% of the minimum wage population. So like there's just a greater ratio of them, minorities in America, just not making the same money. And I'm sure a lot of it has to do with the fact that it's harder for them to get an education with the cost of entry.
Thank you. Next person?
I can go.
Okay, right. Sebastian.
Okay. So a few years ago, I went to go see Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse with my family. And I remember before we went to see that movie, I showed my sister the trailer for it. And when she saw that it was animated, she groaned. She went, "Oh, so this is just a kid's movie?" I damn near flipped the table when I heard that, because animation is not just a kid's medium. Referring to it as such is such a discredit towards the art of animation and all that goes into it. Because when you think of a kid's movie, you think of some mindless, semi-entertaining film that'll have goofs and gaffes and, some broad general lesson to be given to the kids at the end. When you go see a movie, you do so to feel something, whether that's joy, sadness, introspection, or entertainment. You see a movie to escape the struggles of your daily lives. And I argue that animation does that better more than any other form of medium. The thing about animation is there are literally no limits to what you can do with it. The only limit is the creator's imagination and a budget, kind of. Through animation, you can see and experience worlds and environments that wouldn't normally be possible through live action. This is becoming less of a case as the use of CGI and VFX continues to increase, but whatever. Sorry. It can be easy to see why most people associate animation with kids' entertainment. After all, most of kids' entertainment is done so through animation. Whether it's the shows on Disney Junior, shows on Cartoon Network that are typically geared towards kids, or the plethora of kids' films like Shrek, WALL-E, or How to Train Your Dragon. However, by brushing off animated films and just labeling them as a kids' film, you ignore all the qualities within it that make it special. Let's take, for example, one of the greatest animated shows of all time, Avatar: The Last Airbender. As a kid, I loved this show, but rewatching it a few years ago, I was able to see that it was so much more than just kids' entertainment. The characters grew throughout the show. They loved, they went through heartbreak. There's so much spiritual lessons to be given in this show. And the world building is just incredibly phenomenal. Let's not forget how it made nearly all of us cry with the infamous Leaves in the Vine scene. The animation makes the world that these characters live in feel so special and so full of gorgeous detail, something that did not work at all with the live action remake. This is all just scratching the surface of what animation can do. You can create the most eeriest environments and atmospheres, as seen with movies like Nine and Coraline. Anything that can be imagined can be created with such beauty and personality. Every frame can feel like a painting come alive right in front of you. On top of all this, animation can also reach to the inner child within all of us. It can inspire us to imagine, to create, to see the world in beauty and wonder that has been lost through years of living in this harsh reality. What greater escape is there than being able to escape the world and return to our own childlike wonder? Animation is such a beautiful art form, one that requires an insurmountable amount of work and detail between thousands of people in order to create something that can speak to the hearts of nearly everyone who watches it. While it may be marketed more towards children, it is by no means solely for children. Thank you.
Are you ready? Okay, all right, we'll go with
I'm
Josh.
getting an argument here.
All right.
I agree that the art of animation isn't just for children. However, the evidence you provided, Spider-Man, The Last Airbender, Caroline and Nine, are all children's movies and were marketed towards children and teens. I agree that kids feel the same emotions and tough topics can be discussed in these films. However, these ideas were still presented in a way that it was appropriate for children to watch. The scriptwriters and marketers for these movies were doing it for an adolescent audience predominantly.
You can take your time.
Okay.
Do you want me to rephrase or interject?
No, I got it. I got it. Okay. So I fully agree that they were marketed more towards kids and geared more towards kids and teens than they are adults. But I feel like that, in a sense, discredits the fact that animation can also be used for adult purposes. It's just not something that is seen as often in society. And so I brought up those examples because they were kids' entertainment that, you could still take so much from them, even as an adult. And it goes to show that you can still make great adult animation. If you can make such great kids animation that, could still be seen by all ages, adult animation can and should still be made. That's something that I can, talk about another time. But yeah. I think that's my overall claim. Adult animation is out there. Like if you've seen the show Invincible, that's another animated show that did super well and was loved by many people. And that was definitely a fully adult animated show, So it is out there, it is possible, and it should be respected more by the general public. Thank you.
Keep going. All right. Whenever you're ready.
All right. So my claim is that Shrek is the best movie because it is. It's a movie about an ogre who needs to save a princess, but it has commentary on pursuing authentic relationships through like satire, and I think it's one of the greatest movies. A, because it's unique. It had a template of a genre through fairy tale, but it took that and made the characters realize they were in fairy tale while also being in a fairy tale, so they could comment on their own genre while being in it. This hadn't been seen before Shrek, except for A Princess Bride, but that was not animated. And it had a lot of success. It has $60 million budget full of animators who absolutely hated working for Shrek because it was looked at as like the kickoff project, like nobody cared about it. And it made $500 million. It has a song in it by Smash Mouth, and the financial stability that Shrek brought to Smash Mouth. The lead singer of the group has been quoted saying that Shrek has saved his marriage and his entire life. So Shrek has at least done that for somebody. I think it has a good message as well. The message of like nobody is who they say they are is conveyed in so many characters: Shrek, the dragon, Fiona, and the idea that like characters are hurting from loneliness or being misunderstood, but like they're actually their true selves. Like as Oprah said, everybody has a story, right? And I think the message is able, like, it's such a good movie because it's able to convey that message to every audience by like putting innuendos and different types of humor in to like attract adults, while also like putting a plot and like weird characters to attract kids, and like teens like it because it's snarky and it's, going against fairy tales while also being a fairy tale. It's everything that any age group can want. So it's able to convey a message to such a broad group of people that no other movie can. Thirdly, like it's just enjoyable. Again, it's for all ages. Like people love Shrek. There's a reason that like none of you guys could really come up with like a rebuttal because it's a good movie, right? Nobody wants to hate on it, right? Like it's become a cult. Like Shrek is it, and it's not relying on old themes. It made its own theme instead of like Star Wars, where there's like 20 Star Wars, or there's Mission Impossible, where everybody knows what's gonna happen in Mission Impossible. Shrek is not predictable like that. The humor is like, it's careful, it's carefree, it's intricate, it's filled with innuendos. Like Lord Farquaad, like his name and his size, like make it so you can make fun of Lord Farquaad the whole movie and nobody gets sick of it. So in conclusion, I think Shrek is the best movie because it's unique, it has amazing humor, and it's able to convey its message to literally any age group. And no other movie has been that unique and conveyable and liked by everybody. Thank you.
All right, is anybody ready? Counter argument? All right, yes, Selena.
Okay, although Shrek is a really good film, it grossed very well in the box office. But being the best movie, I think that's more of a personal choice. There's a lot of other really great movies that have grossed in a lot more. Like Avatar, it grossed in 2.847 billion, and it remains the #1 film of all time worldwide. So I just think that's more of a personal opinion.
All right.
You have some time.
No, I'm good. I got this response a lot. I think it's like the only loophole in the argument is that, it's a personal preference. But again, I do not see another movie that has become such a cult favorite, has grossed well in box office, but has also like made their cast happy, has like redone Smash Mouth's life. Okay, no other movie has saved his marriage. And no other movie has like been appreciated by literally every age group and has conveyed a message to literally every age group, as well as Shrek has. So like under those stipulations, I think it is the best movie. I tried to like give a framework of what a good movie is. But within that, again, like I do not see another movie that has like performed well, is known well, every age group loves it, has conveyed a good message, and is like clean, and you can like watch it with anyone. Like it's such a versatile movie. Whereas like Avatar, it's kind of like there's still the argument of people being like, oh well, it's not anime, and like things like that, where like Shrek, like nobody hates it. So I guess that would be like my response to that. Yeah.
We are ready for the next speaker. All right, Doctor, whenever you're ready.
Okay. Should you get in trouble for what you do to your own body? If you willingly put something in your body, should that be illegal? You can go to McDonald's and order a burger. That's unhealthy, completely legal. You can smoke a whole pack of cigarettes, something that's highly addictive and causes cancer. That's no problem. And it's definitely not illegal to go to a bar and order alcoholic beverages that impair judgment and motor function, as well as causing adverse health effects over time. So why should it be illegal for someone to willingly put a substance in their body that they know the adverse health effects? Should it be illegal for someone in the comfort of their own home to try a hallucinogen? If you said no to that, then the argument is more against personal freedom. Illicit drugs should be legalized for recreational use, and you shouldn't be a criminal for possessing and using drugs. Drugs can and have been taken for recreational purposes for hundreds of years, and scientific evidence has proven that people with impulsive personalities are more likely to get addicted to drugs, and some people can't get addicted to anything at all. But if someone is a law-abiding citizen, and they shouldn't become a criminal for getting addicted to drugs. If someone isn't harming others, the government shouldn't get involved. But the potential of someone committing crimes and endangering others is higher when someone is on drugs. While this is true, that can be the same thing said about booze. If someone puts someone other than themselves in harm's way because they're under the influence of drugs, they should still go to prison. But just possessing and consuming drugs shouldn't make someone a criminal. The United States has the largest prison population of any country on earth, and 58% of this population are nonviolent drug offenders. The worst part of the statistic is that prison doesn't stop someone from being a drug addict. Education and substance abuse treatment programs is what stops someone from being a drug addict. These overcrowded prisons affect the taxpayer who is paying this in local tax. The average cost of housing in prison for a year is $35,000. However, prison is still necessary in society, but not for someone who's a nonviolent drug offender. For someone who struggles with addiction and endangers others, they should be put in substance abuse programs instead. For every dollar spent on a substance abuse program, it saves $4 in health care costs and $7 in criminal justice costs compared to the penal system. It saves you, the taxpayer, money, and potentially saves drug addicts their lives. Drug decriminalization saves you money and can save drug addicts' lives and also allows recreational users to not become criminals.
If you're ready with the counter argument for the, okay, all right.
I agree that doing drugs recreationally and It's a personal choice and they should not be sent to prison. However, I don't believe that all drugs should be made legal because it only makes it easier for illegal distribution. As we all know, drug lords are usually associated with all types of violence and all types of crimes, so it might actually just make other crimes increase rather than the distribution of anything.
Do you want me to?
I think I answer him. I'm gonna say I agree that, the producers is like a big problem. Essentially, it's causing violence, especially when it goes like cross country lines and like in other countries and stuff. But we've been fighting like a war on drugs for 50 years, 60 years since the 70s, and we haven't done made any balance to stop like cartels and things like that. Which we should probably be looking into another direction if that's been failing for so long, into a direction of more of like a government legalization process where they can have their own quality control and take it out of the hands of other countries and illegal producers and put it into the government hands where they can do quality control on their own substances and produce it, as well as taxing it. So that's my counter argument.
Next speaker. All right, Hannah.
So today, my point is that everybody should train in martial arts. Training in martial arts is one of the most important things you can do for yourself. Growing up, my young sisters trained in karate and taekwondo, and during my time in the army, I trained in combatives, which takes a lot of points from jiu-jitsu, wrestling, and boxing. And just recently, at the beginning of this year, I joined a jiu-jitsu and kickboxing team. So why the emphasis on fighting? You might say that's too violent. But martial arts is definitely high contact. It is also a channel to some of the most important life lessons to be learned. A great quote that I love from Lou Holtz, he's a former football player and coach. He said, "Without self-discipline, success is impossible, period." Also, Jocko Willink, a former Navy SEAL commander, small business owner, and author of Extreme Ownership and Discipline Equals Freedom, speaks often of the life lessons learned from training in martial arts, specifically jiu-jitsu. He states, martial arts can be a metaphor for life because while training, you will experience conflict and that conflict must be dealt with, just like everyday life on a day-to-day basis. Understand that the following list is just scratching the surface of reasons why you should train. So you will learn self-defense. Hopefully you'll never have to get into hand-to-hand combat with anyone else. But if the time comes, you'll be prepared to defend yourself. This can be great for kids who deal with bullying, or if you find yourself alone in an unknown neighborhood at night. It's a good rule. It's a good rule to train and be ready for the unexpected. You will gain self-confidence and self-esteem. You'll learn new takedowns, submissions, punching combinations, and it will enhance your game as a fighter. As you learn these, and you'll become a more competent fighter. And since you have been training consistently, you will probably start to see gains in your own physique and athleticism. Training in martial arts will also teach you humility. You will get taken down, you will get submitted, and you will get choked out. All in a controlled setting, but these things will definitely teach you humility. You will be uncomfortable and have to submit to someone else's will. This would humble your average human being for sure. Training in martial arts also teaches respect. You will learn to respect your coaches, trainers, and professors. You will learn to respect your opponents, and you will learn to respect yourself. You will also think twice before picking a fight with somebody else, because you never know who's training and what. You will never want to pick a fight with somebody who happens to be a black belt in jiu-jitsu and a green belt in judo, because they'll take you down WWE style and swiftly choke you out. In life, much like in martial arts, he who planks first wins. This is true in any competitive field. From business to chess to military tactics, everything requires you to develop a mental strategy. And there's also the clear benefit of consistently training and staying in shape. So in conclusion, why would you not train in martial arts?
Do we have a counter argument for Hannah?
Yeah.
All right, Armando.
Uh, I agree that it's good to learn martial arts for self-defense, but I guess I cannot agree that some kids who are immature and have taken martial arts lessons can use their skills in bullying other kids who are not able to defend themselves.
You can take your time.
I guess that's why I would say like more people should train in martial arts, so that if the case ever did come about, the kids who wouldn't be able to protect them because they have taken a class, in that sense, would be able to defend themselves more properly.
Fine. All right, you can get it now. Yes, second just conclude 1 minute. All right, okay. You can begin.
After winning independence from European colonial powers, most African nations fell victim to one party or one-man rule. But democracy had just begun advancing in the last few years in Africa. Today, we have about 18 countries practicing or functioning as democrats, and about 35 in transitions in the sub-Saharan Africa counted as functioning functioning democracy. But autocrats continue to rule some part of Africa's largest countries, including Nigeria, Zaire, and Kenya. But barriers to democracy persist throughout the continent. Example with the poverty, limited investment, widespread of illiteracy, and huge foreign debts. Nonetheless, advocates of African democracy say that popular pressure within Africa itself will bring more political reform in the coming years. The wave of democracy that some have called second liberation began question with the end of the Cold War, with the fading of geopolitical rivalries, and the United States and other Western powers felt freer to urge autocratic regimes to adopt political reforms. After receiving tens of billions of dollars, Africa still shows no development, and it needs to be looked at. One particular issue is free markets. Free markets are interestingly not as the same as the Western development. Even though Africa has been supported, there's been great markets from countries like Ghana and Uganda, but even though it's not been the same as what the aids from US has supported it to be. One interesting thing is aid rather fosters dependence and not development to Africa. So my main claim is US should be able to reduce some of the aid to leave Africa to be on their feet and fight the battle. Despite contention of the contrary political and economic stability in Africa should be squarely among America's important goal. Even though American help in Africa will even bring a good market of business field for them to be able to engage in. Some also argue that a decrease in aid to Africa will lead to more Rwandas and Somalians. But before imploding, these two were major foreign aid recipients, and that didn't help. So I will conclude that aid has not worked for Africa, and I would rather have it reduced, if not cut. And if we look compared to Africans and Asians, they both receive aid from the Western and U.S., but you can see more improvement in the Asian field as compared to Africa. Thank you.
You ready with your counter argument for Derek? Let's hear from someone from whom we haven't heard from. Mr. Fine, yeah.
Well, I agree on the maybe reducing aid to Africa, but I wouldn't say to cut aid off completely. Maybe if you looked at the pros of what the US is doing to help and the good things that it's done to help Africa, maybe that could change your views on why cut the aid. But I feel like it's out of Africa's control to change like in the environment and the way we live. And US is just trying to help them. And it's not just like Africa taking advantage or anything like that. It's just that it's something that's out of their control to get out of. So we're just trying to help them. It's not I don't want to.
Can I interject here? Epifani, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, he is saying that reduce it. He's not asking you to eliminate it. He's saying reduce it.
Towards the end of his argument, he said reduce it, if not cut it. So that's where I'm reading like his words.
Okay. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
So yes, I did say, if not cut, but my main, message is to reduce it, so that they can be able to use the aids that they're getting, properly, because they always end up in the wrong hands. And, they're ended up in the wrong leaders, or I'll use this example, the pandemic that just happened, and there were lots of aids, um, what do you call it, like, say, a lot of sanitizers sent down there, and it ended up in wrong leaders, and they were holding those out and selling them to the ignored people, like the people that don't know what's going on. So the reason why I was saying if not cut, it should be reduced, but I'm stressing on the part of being reduced. So if I didn't clear myself up, I think that's where the issue is. Is that okay? All right, thank you.
Do you have an alternate strategy for this one? You want other countries to come and invest? I got that vibe from your speech. Instead of giving aid to Africa, let other countries go and invest there?
Yeah, because the whole thing is, I was trying to bring the opposite side so we can still be able to run that pros and cons.
Right.
Like that. But if they're able to stand on their feet, then that's a good ground for other people to come in.
Right. Right. Okay. Thank you. All right, next speaker. All right, start.
The Second Amendment of the United States Constitution states a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Basically, what this means is it gives people the right to keep and bear arms. Although, yes, I agree, in order to be able to own and carry a firearm, there should be rules and regulations, such as background checks. But gun rights should not be banned, and here's why. The media usually focuses on mass shootings. People are being killed by the gun itself, and how kids are getting a hold of firearms if not stored properly. The media seems to be more in favor of gun control because of this. But media rarely reports on the context when it comes to mass shootings, such as connections between antidepressants and the shooting itself. There's a serious problem with mental health care in the United States, with one of the lowest involuntary commitment rates of involuntary commitment in the world, meaning if an adult needs to be admitted, even for observance, even if it's for a short period of time, they need to sign off on it. What's even worse is, according to psychreg.org, the U.S. has seen an increase in mass shootings and school shootings. In 2018 alone, there were 103 incidents in gunfire on school grounds. These shootings are also happening in synagogues, like the 2018 shooting at the Tree of Life Synagogue in Pittsburgh, or the 2016 shooting at the Pulse nightclub in Orlando. Politicians are blaming it on the tool used, pushing more for gun laws. But these incidents are happening in gun-free zones, and law-abiding citizens are not the issue. these individuals are most likely going into places that no civilian carry isn't available. According to Crime Prevention Research Center, 97.8% of public shootings occur in gun-free zones. Gun control will not prevent shootings at schools and shopping centers. We need to hire more retired law enforcement to protect these children and customers shopping. I have a friend that is in law enforcement, and on his off days, he goes to Walmart and works as security, so I'll keep everyone safe. So we need more of that. We need to protect our Second Amendment, look more into mental illness. Taking guns from law-abiding citizens will not and has not stopped the problem.
Anybody ready with a counter argument?
So your claim was that there's no need for gun control, but and I agree that we need to protect our right to bear arms, but saying that gun control isn't needed is false. Mass shootings aren't the only reason this country needs gun control. When it comes to road rage, people whip their gun out really fast, and this has happened in Chicago maybe 1 or 2 years ago near Grant Park. Someone cut someone else off, and they pulled their gun out and they shot, I think it was a 3-year-old. So not everyone should be able to have access to guns, whether it's age or mental health.
Can I answer this? Am I allowed to add something to this?
To her, I would, let's do that. Let's clear her. I don't want to overwhelm her. Let her respond and then you can add. Okay? All right.
Okay,
You have some time.
Okay.
You want some time?
no.
Okay, all right.
My topic was gun rights should not be banned. So I do agree that there should be rules and regulations, like the proper background checks. Like I said, I think it's more of a, these road rage, more of a, maybe a mental illness going on that we're not really regulating. Like I said, an adult, in order to get observed, they need to sign off. Otherwise, they're free.
Yes, Sally, you can add.
Mine is not really like something negative towards you, just like adding, but like also like trying to like quieten your claim. It's just that I agree guns shouldn't be banned, and they should be used for protection or anything like that. But I feel like the regulations should there should be a longer process to holding a gun and being able to use it. So that's something I would like say if I hold a gun and it ends up in like a kid's hands, I should be banned for using a gun for a very long time. And it shouldn't be like a ban all over. It should be like a specific person can't hold a gun for a long period of time and pass like certain like regulations in order to hold them down to protect them. As we say, if they're mentally ill.
I do agree there should be more rules and regulations, like training wise, more hours, especially with people who don't have much experience. Because as long as you have a clean record, you could get a FOID. But as to guns being stored improperly, you do get your FOID taken away if something like that happens. So, yeah.
You want to go? Great.
Let's say you are driving at night and approaching an intersection. The traffic light is green and suddenly a car from another direction is coming fast towards you, crashing into your vehicle. If you don't have a witness on what actually happened and the other driver denied that it was his fault, then it would not be easy for you to prove that the accident was not your fault, and it can be a lot of problem for you. And like buying insurance coverage for your protection, this is just one of the reasons why I'd like to convince you to install a dash cam in your car. A dash cam can easily prove if you're not at fault when you get involved in a traffic accident. By having the footage from the camera, you can show the police or your insurance company what really happened and can avoid, driving violation charges and facilitate your insurance claim. It can also prevent an increase in your insurance premium. A dashcam, the built-in GPS, can also record your speed while you're driving, which can be used as evidence to dispute a speeding ticket if you believe that a cop is charging you for speeding that wasn't true. Some dash cameras can also monitor your vehicle while it's parked and can automatically record footage if someone's vandalizing your car or stealing from it. If driving your car is a source of income for you, like Uber, for example, a dash cam can record footage inside your car, which can show the facts if your passenger suddenly accuse you of false charges. You have to be aware, however, that there are laws concerning recording private conversations. It is illegal in some states, including Illinois, to record a conversation without the consent of everyone involved. So it's best always to inform your passengers that your camera is recording and that they have to agree to it. Let me tell you that dashcam installed in your car can also have disadvantages. If you get involved in an accident where it was actually your fault, then the footage from your camera can be possibly used against you. A dashcam can also be a distraction and can attract, thieves if you have a nice dashcam in your car and it's very visible through your windshield. It is good to know that there are some dashcam models now that are available in the market that may work for you if you have concerns about getting them. Some units are relatively inexpensive now, like about less than $100. There are some mini dashcams available now too that would not obstruct your view of the road or distract you from driving. So the purpose of my speech is to offer you a way to easily protect yourself, your family, and your property in case you get involved in traffic accident where you did not actually cause it. While there are some disadvantages about having a dash cam in your car, I still believe that it can help you, or there's a lot more advantages that can help you in different ways in your driving in everyday life.
All right, if you have a counter argument for Armando, please.
Okay, so I really like your speech. I think you have a lot of good ideas in terms of like why a dash cam should be installed in terms of like insurance purposes. However, the idea of like a camera being able to record like all the like sounds and whatever that go on in your car, and also like the idea that I have a camera that's $100 on my dash in like the most untinted place in my car for people to see is like, oh, this is a valuable car. like who else, like other stuff might be in it, like it attracts theft. And I think that like already car crashes happen and like things like intersections where there's cameras, like there's cameras that are the most common place for people to make mistakes. So I feel like from an insurance standpoint, it's kind of already covered just by like the cameras and stuff that are in public, and I feel like it causes more potential risk to me to have a camera in my car, unless I was like an Uber driver or something.
Okay, so I actually agree about all your concerns, but I guess this is something to consider before you actually buy a dash cam for your car. If you, if your concern is that it might attract thieves to, steal or to, to uh, steal something from your car or the dash cam itself, then you should buy something that is cheap and like there are mini dash cams available in the market now. They are relatively small and they can be installed inside your car that is not too visible outside. And yeah, and if you're worried about the privacy, rights of the passengers, like in Uber, and like I said, you have to tell all your passengers that your camera is recording, and you have to get your consent of all the passengers before you turn your camera on.
We have two speeches left. It's either Stefani or Noor. Okay.
Ready. My topic is about why prisoners should be allowed to vote. Felony disenfranchisement laws bar millions of Americans from voting due to their felony convictions, but the freedom to vote is the right of every American citizen. Prisoners need to vote to serve as the natural defenders of their own interests, but in defending their own interests, prisoners could substantially improve the prison system itself. We could start with the issue of prisoner abuse. We already know that prisoners are subject to abusive and inhumane conditions. If granted the right to vote on issues regarding prisons, inmates may be able to live in less harsh conditions. The political system needs a perspective of prisoners. In a New York Times column titled "Tell Me Again Why Prisoners Can't Vote," Jamel Bowie wrote, "Their votes might force lawmakers to take a closer look at what happens in these institutions before they spiral into unaccountable violence and abuse." In 1958, during the case of Chalk v. Dahl, the Supreme Court decided that prisoners cannot have their citizenship stripped as a punishment for a crime. Justice Earl Warren said citizenship is not a right that expires upon misbehavior. So if a felon's citizenship cannot be taken away, why is his right to vote being stripped of him? As a citizen of the United States, it is within his civil rights to be able to cast a ballot. Majority of state prisoners can't vote, yet they're counted in the population to the legislative district of their prison, the main factor that determines the state's number of representatives and its presidential electoral votes. It's a practice the NAACP calls prison-based gerrymandering. While doing my research, I connected this back to the 3/5 clause, where slaves were denied the right to vote, but they were still counted in the census for the sole purpose of gaining more pro-slavery representatives. Prisoners not being given their basic right to vote is something that's setting this country back. Prisons could be much more quickly and cheaply improved by creating a political constituency of prison voters. Prison in itself is already severe punishment. The deprivation of liberty and the loss of control over everyday interaction, including the ability to see one's loved ones on a daily basis, are all severe punishments imposed by incarceration. A prisoner can be punished without having his freedoms taken away.
restoring these basic rights is not only the right thing to do constitutionally, but it could also give us good solutions on how to better the prison system. Prisoners are people too, no matter what crimes they committed. Maybe we can all learn from what they have to say.
All right, let's have a counter argument for Nuha. Derek, would you?
I agree with you on a prisoner being punished without taking the rights away, but also think the system is set up in such a way that people don't do stuff over and over so that they actually think about if they're doing bad things or even they're doing something that it's going to cause them some, rights taken away that we think about it. So even though they're in their own confinement, I think they have rules and regulations and that's part of it.
I think about that.
Okay.
Derek, can you repeat your counter argument, please?
So I agree with the claim that prisoners shouldn't be punished. They should be punished without taking their rights away. But the part of them being prisoners is through the system. So what I'm just saying is it's something that is set aside so that when the person is committing a crime or doing something, they will have to be scared of, trying something. For instance, like shoplifting or something, and they will know that, hey, this is the consequences that you do, so they'll be right not to be able to vote. So that can deter, stop anybody from, getting into that kind of crime. So that's to me what I really done.
Derek, I'll just back up a little bit here. It's what she is, I'm thinking about it this way.
Okay.
So what she is saying is that the prisoners should be their voting rights should not be taken away from them.
Yes.
And you're talking about, as I understand, are you talking about having some stronger consequences so that they stop doing these crimes?
Are you saying that because they're in prison for, what's it called? They're being punished, so this is a part of their punishment, all their other rights are taken away in prison, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
I agree with that to an extent, but, people could be in prison for like 3 weeks, or in jail for 3 weeks or a month, or even have a life sentence, but if you're in there for something that's not, like, terrible, I mean, every kind of thing, but like terrible, then I don't think your voting rights should be taken away.
All right. Thank you. Right. We have our last speaker, Estefany.
Out of 1.1 million American girls, 2% give them up for adoption and half of them abort. 58% struggle to raise their kids on their own to finish school and get a job. As an individual, wouldn't you want to take care of yourself before you take care of anyone else? Wouldn't you want to put yourself first, make sure you're okay to be able to bring someone else into the world? Does anyone ever wish to have that job that fits their wants and their needs and have that comfortable push in life? Why rush to have a kid before 25 and not wait and prepare for yourself for the countless of years you're going to have to spend with that kid? There's many pros to having a kid at an older age. There is some cons like health issues, not being able to conceive, but science has evolved and there's easier ways to conceive. There's ways to have a kid, like getting a surrogate, egg freezing, or even adopting. It doesn't have to be your own to be a parent. But the things that, in my opinion, I would have a kid over 25 is that it is shown to have, from an older dad, studies have shown that having an older dad, kids have a higher IQ. And it's also shown that they are more likely to focus on their interests, so be more focused on themselves and not have to feel the need to fit in socially. They also have a higher chance of being academically successful, as long as parents being mentally prepared to be patient for a little kid and support them from when they're young for the rest of their lives. So it's shown that parents that are more patient are less likely to punish them harshly, so to yell, to physically educate them. It is shown that in the long run, it leads to less behavioral, emotional, and social difficulties down the road, which have shown that kids do have that as a society now. They have more difficulties emotionally, behaviorally, and socially. This also matters because there's a lot of benefits and you don't want to rush. I know there's choice. It's everyone's personal choice. Some people want to have kids young and some wait and be prepared. But this is all just depending on the person. It can be by maturity or it can be unexpected. But even people that have kids unexpectedly, if they had a choice to maybe conceive later, they would have. So if anything, this information is just to help any people deciding if they want to have a kid sooner rather than later. And as a parent or a kid of a parent, don't you want to see your kid succeed? And has a parent ever wanted you to succeed in anything else? So I was more of prepare for success for you and your kid in the long run.
counter argument for expanding? You go? Okay, all right.
I agree that it takes more responsibility to raise children at a younger age, and it's also important to take care and find yourself first before continuing to become a parent. But at the same time, having children early will allow the parents to experience more of the kids' adulthood and possibly even their grandkids' adulthood.
Okay. Sorry. You say that being a younger parent, you're able to enjoy your kids more, or grandparents be more in the present, like be more present for the grandchild. Is that what you're saying?
I mean, they would still probably be alive when their kids have kids, because they're younger.
Right. I did come across that point, but at that point, when you're young, you're not really stable financially. So, in one hand, when you have free time, you can be active with them because you're young still, and you would see your family. But at the end of the day, you get to see them less because you're working more to be with them. And it's shown that with college degree or no college degree, people that have kids under the age of 25 suffer income loss rather than 25 to 30 age that have been financial gain. So, I mean, you do see family, you get to meet your grandparents, but then in the long run, it's not good for your kids if you don't get to see them, if you're not financially stable.
All right, class, thank you very much. Take a 5-minute break. I'm gonna have to go to the bathroom. And then please come back. It's about 8:12, so we should start around 8:17. Yeah. So I have to think about it. This is I was waiting from what I see at 4:30. Then we agreed on that. We should have at least been done, it's been all the way. Okay, everybody here, all right? Let's close the door. Okay, so, all right, I'm just going to explain your finals. What do you have in your finals? We just finished this and I'm going to be talking to all of you. So I'll quickly finish this and then I'll be in the other room and then I'll call you one by one and discuss your speeches. All your grades have been posted for your debate speech, so that's all done. And you, hopefully everybody turned in the counter arguments. Did you all turn it in to me? You need to turn it in now. Okay? All right. Yeah.
Do I have one chance because my computer is not working right now?
Oh,
So
did you take your notes?
I'm writing it down in my notebook and then I transfer it onto
Yeah, what you can, have you written it down? Have you written it?
Yeah.
Okay, then what I can do for you is I can take a picture of that and I can post it. Okay, all right. Then you'll be done today. You don't have to think anymore. All right. Okay. So all of you, please do submit the counter arguments for me. Okay, here. All right. And so the only last commitment that you have for this course is if you go to your in-class assignment. This is something that I have put it here for you. And counter arguments, that's already done, turned it in, and hopefully everybody's turned it in. And the final course analysis, okay? In lieu of your finals, your finals, we don't have a final for this class as a final exam. As I mentioned, you won't have that. What we are going to do is I have provided you these questions here. Do a course analysis, all right? So the first question is, how do you rate yourself as a public speaker based on the 3 speeches that you've done? How do you rate yourself before joining this class? What do you think, how do you rate yourself as a public speaker on a scale of 1 to 10? And right now, after this course, how do you rate yourself as a public speaker? So you're going to tell me this. Then, in what areas have you seen improvement? Is it eye contact? Is it writing the speeches? Is it understanding introduction? Is it the last one, counter arguments, argumentation, Tourman's model of argumentation, Monroe's motivated sequence, Maslow's hierarchy, all of that we've learned through the course. Informative speeches, think about your profile speeches. In what areas do you see that you have really improved, and what areas do you see you want to continuously improve, make more changes, make more improvements? And finally, the question is, what were some of the highlights of this course that you enjoyed the most? And tell me what was challenging, and not in a negative way, but more in terms of what really pushed you. What in this course? What were some of the aspects in this course that really kind of took you out of your comfort zone and made you work harder? Okay, so these are some of the questions that you need to respond to. I would like you to start working on it right now. If you can turn it in by 9:05, that's great. If you are not able to do it, then of course you can turn it in. The reason is that I will use this time to do this. I will be in a different room, giving you feedback about everything. So this if you're not able to do it today, you need to turn it in by the 13th. Okay, that's also acceptable. 13th of May, which is Friday, by 5 p.m. our course is going to get done. Okay. Other than that, there's no other commitment from you. If you have done, if you so far we have. I'm just going to look at the 1 second class. That's the only thing that's left. Other than that, give me a second here. I'm going to pull this up, and I have to. Yeah, one. Yeah. So your profile speech already graded, informative speech that's graded, persuasive speech that's persuasive or debate speech that's graded. You had a profile speech outline that's done, informative speech outline in bibliography that's done, persuasive speech outline in bibliography that's also done, persuasive/debate that's also done. As you can see, these requirements were there in class, and you finished all of them. Okay, and class and attendance, as in class and attendance, where you've done small little assignments in class, and that, including attendance, are the video recordings that we've watched, some of your analysis from in-class assignments, the smaller assignments, all that will be the 100 points that you've already done. So other than that, in fact, even this final exam is also a part of this class attendance of quiz. Okay, so you have no more commitments. You're done with the course. Okay. So what I'll do is I'll be in the other room, and I will be giving you feedback for this speech, and also looking quickly at your gradebook and seeing if anything needs to be done, or so that we are on the same page. So having said that, please, you can start working on this one class if you want to. I would probably use this time because I really like the fact that you guys are pretty busy with some jobs and family commitments, and so I want you to utilize this last time. And please go ahead and finish this assignment, final course assignment, as much as you can. If you cannot, you have time till Friday. I will be in that class, and I will be calling you one by one. Actually, that's not. No, I don't know what it is. wants to come first? Okay, come. Right.
No, you don't have to.
Oh, okay.
Whoever wants to come.
Okay, he's fine.
Okay. You can get your laptop also if you want.
Oh, okay. You're good.
Whoever's next can go.
All right, well,
Next person, who is next person? Josh Epperberg. This is from your content from your informative speech. This wonderful allowing to work on eye contact and some questions based in the audience when you're so that kind of when you're doing having the eye contact, it also provides a resting place for the audience to kind of engage with you again. Okay? That will break the tone of the speech and create moments of high and low. Okay. All right. Next person, get ready to come. Next person who's coming. All right. Okay, next is, who wants to come? Okay. Sebastian? You have to do it tomorrow at 10:15
AM, right?
a.m. So Zoom,
That works.
get into the Teams meeting
Okay.
that you always use for class, and I'll catch you there.
Okay.
Otherwise, take my number, 10:15. Take my number also, 412, if you have any problems getting into it.
Gotcha.
760-834.
Okay, thank you so much.
10:15 and.
Here's a question.
Yeah.
Did you watch Dr. Street?
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
I saw it twice already.
No, no. Did you like it?
I know a lot of people, he had mixed feelings. I liked it, though. I mean, it was pretty good. The concept was pretty nice.
Yeah, yeah.
And then I didn't expect Wanda to be evil. I know, like, because you watched
Is anyone else here going to be watching Doctor Strange?
Did you watch, like, the Disney Plus, get the
WandaVision?
Yeah. No, not WandaVision, the cartoon, you know?
What If?
Yeah, What If.
Yeah.
Because, like, the third eye with all the fucking crazy shit was there, you know?
thought it was gonna be
So I
him?
thought it was, the evil guy's gonna be Doctor Strange, which he was there too, but I didn't expect Wanda to be, like, fucking nuts.
Like
One of the
crazy.
kids, bro, it was fucking insane.
And also, like, I just love Sam Raimi and all the movies he makes. So, dude, so crazy.
Good news.
I can't believe so many people hate it though. Wow. Alright, I'm out of here. I can't believe this is the last class. I literally thought we had another week.
Yeah.
Alright, see you, man.
All right.
Peace.
What is next? I'm sorry. For your last one. Oh, okay. Yeah, I did.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
She doesn't grade so fast. Like, slow a little bit.
Literally. I thought she doesn't even like look at them. She's just like, you completed it, okay.
Is that what she does for real?
I don't know, but I hope she
I just showed her like that my computer's not working, and so for like the feedback, I've just been writing it, and I just showed it. And she's like,
hopefully, like, she doesn't even
Is she for late work? You took late work, right?
Yeah, I'm doing my speech tomorrow, because I'm in my formative stage or second one.
I didn't do either.
Yeah, so she's like, tomorrow at this time you have to be ready. And I'm like, okay. Scared me a little bit.
She's getting it.
Yeah, I know.
Oh,
that's
fair.
Okay.
Thank you.
And Yesenia has left off for tomorrow.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you. All right, everybody's gone.
Enjoy your
Bye.
holiday.
Thank you. If I need to, this I forgot to give this back to you. So for today's speech, you had to the introductory statement that was slightly confusing because we started talking about, I thought it was more about abortion choice that you asked to telling people that, we need to exercise their choice. So I thought it was slightly confusing in the beginning, and then I could pick up what you're talking about each, okay?
So yeah, I kind of try to say like what really for like report how many give them up for adoption.
Yeah.
And then how many people like struggle to raise them.
I understood that. Yeah.
I tried to like.
You got to, and what I'm going to tell you that was a good one that you told me and you were able to justify it, which is wonderful. You just, when you're transitioning, that how many people have given it up and how many people have struggled because they were not age appropriate at that point. You need to provide that transition and that summarizing transition for us to understand that. Spend some more time because it was quite abrupt, so it was like a little confusing. Okay? So other than that, delivery, the battle provided, delivery okay, reputation was provided, and yes, that's it. This is it. This is okay.
Thank you.
All right.